Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Blaze the Cat here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games for the Nintendo DS. Now in Japan though, this game was actually called Mario and Sonic at Vancouver Olympics, so that's why I classify that. So, last time, we essentially did manage to get started with the forms of the entire game on Adventure Tours mode by able to only experience 2 missions so far, which does manage to take place in speed skating, 500 meters, for not only trying to tackle for one of those missions by beating the actual event for under 50 seconds. In addition to that though, we also did manage to beat Bowser Jr. And everything else checks out there so far. So yeah, today for this video is that we're about to be continuing exploring for the forms of Frostown and able to actually do some more mission objectives. And as you can tell, is that during the forms within a top screen on the map screen, basically though is about the fact that as soon as you're able to continue your story progression as well as completing several of the objectives, which we'll get to that sooner or later, basically though is about the fact that the cloud smoke is no longer visible in some sections of the map. I mean, relatively speaking though, we can't exactly explore any other areas just yet because we do need this specific character in order to actually get access to one of those sections in the actual locales. So anyway, so let's get into the next mission, which involves around ski jumping Launch Hill. And basically, just like the console version, is about the fact that we need to get ourselves a nice little good start. However, the biggest difference is this time around though is about the fact that unlike the Wii version, basically though is about the fact that in addition to having ourselves motion controls, so we need able to incorporate while trying to wait until that wind is actually pretty stable. And then once you're able to wave the Wii remote downwards, you can able to actually prepare for the largest jump yet. However though, you can still able to try to balance yourself by tilting the Wii remote left and right, and once you're trying to able to shake the Wii remote downwards, basically though you get yourselves a nice landing. However, on the DS version this time around, the control scheme is a little bit different, and so much so, this is in the Nintendo DS after all. This means touchscreen is involved. So this means about the fact that in order to able to get a nice little good start, you have to simply just swipe the touchscreen up, and as a result you have to do it again while jumping, and then every once in a while as soon as you get into midair, you have to balance yourself by keep on tapping either left or right screen on the bottom screen, and finally just swipe the actual stylus down, or specifically trying to swipe the touchscreen down, so that way you can able to actually just get ourselves a nice landing. So yeah, everything else checks out there. And you do realize about the fact that unlike the Wii version, thankfully there are no loading times. So I will admit it though right away, the only gripe I have with the Wii version sometimes though is the load times might take a bit forever to load. Probably because no matter what though, it can take a bit of some time to able to read certain discs ranging from certain areas needs to be loaded, in addition to the forms of certain character voice lines needs to be loaded and all that stuff. So anyways, so every once in a while though is about the fact that we can able to actually participate in character matches, and naturally speaking though, the next event we're going to be jump into is cross country. And basically in this event right here is about the fact that all we have to do is make our way around the track for about a couple of times, and every once in a while though you will able to actually find those glowing panels, and that will able to allows you to able to increase your special sprint. And in order to do that though is by pressing the X button. So generally speaking, I was about the fact that in order to able to keep yourself going, basically though you simply press the A button. But here's the catch though, you do have a stamina, so this means if you overdo it, then you lose your breath and you have to slow down a bit, so just in case your heart will recover, or stamina I should say. So either way, and there's going to be a lot of steep hills every once in a while, so that is why the fact that the button mashing is required until you're able to actually go onto the forms of slanted hills and stuff like that. So yeah, that's essentially how this event plays out to be. There's actually a similar event from this, but we'll get to that sooner or later. So because of this though, yeah, today's date of course there is the 5th of January today, in some cases in 2025 today. So generally speaking though, only 11 more days to go until Donkey Kong Country Returns HD for the Nintendo Switch is almost going to be approaching up to this point. Especially concerning for the fact that, you know, despite the fact that we still only got started with the new year, of course. So generally speaking, I was about the fact that I'm still very curious to know of what's gonna happen next during at some point until next week and beyond, especially concerning for the fact that, like we've already established that before, that we can able to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise, of course. So, but I digress. So as you can tell, since we somehow beaten Luigi in cross country, in addition to get ourselves our next crystal, I believe we can now able to actually add Luigi into our team. Because as soon as you're able to actually beat certain amount of characters in several missions, you can able to actually recruit them as allies, or to be more accurate though, recruit them as the team, and you can also play as those specific characters later down the road. And I think, approximately speaking now, is that I believe we can only able to actually get up to 16 characters at the moment, but as far as if you're trying to go for post-game content, well, I believe there's going to be 4 additional characters you can able to play as. But then again though, that can wait and during at some point, especially concerning for the fact that this game has been out for 15 years now. So generally speaking, I was about the fact that you pretty much expected what I was expecting to mention about that. So, anyways though, oh, and not to mention though, is about the fact that, have you guys even heard about the forms of the Maxi 10 version of this Let's Play? Well, I'm telling you right now, you won't be missing a gosh darn thing. Like, it's incredibly bare bones, and sometimes though, he keeps on skipping several missions off screen, and I was like, that's it? That's all there is to really think about it? Whilst thankfully though, in our channel anyway, with the Maxi Toys, for I've heard anyway, it's actually gone pretty smoothly so far. So anyway, oh, there's something different right here. Here we have Nordic Combination, which, or to be more accurate though, combined. So I guess I get the feeling that this particular event is basically a combination of 2 of these events into one specific event. Although we can't do that much in here though, because as you can see, we have to mash the A button until you're able to fully recover from that penalty bar. So naturally speaking though, I'm always great at button mashing, so that way we get ourselves our glorious 3 hearts. So pretty swell. And fundamentally speaking though, we've got 1 more crystal left until we're able to actually get rid of the next ice wall. So even then though, nothing else to write to home about in terms of Frostown, but as far as the later locales as far as I'm concerned, it will start to get a little bit more, a lot of emphasis on exploration sometimes, because generally speaking I was about the fact that if you really want to go somewhere, you do need to able to figure out a lot of emphasis on exploration. So anyway, back to speed skating 500 meters, except the next objective as far as I'm aware, we do need to activate the final sprint onto the last stretch of the entire track. So yeah, that's what we have to do basically. So either way though, and this time we'll go back on play as Mario, ever since in first up against with Bowser Jr. and technically from the likes of cross country events while we race against with Luigi and stuff. So, but I digress. So there's also another thing else that's worth noting for, is about the fact that I can't even believe by saying this, is about the fact that until the next couple of months time, that it may look like there's going to be quite a lot of the 10th anniversary of certain things is about to be on its way, ranging from until 2 months time, that Mario Party 10 is going to be officially become 10 years old, which get it because it did say Mario Party 10, so this means about the fact that Mario Party 10 will be eventually become 10 years old until sometime in March. So yeah, it seems pretty crazy all things considered, despite the fact that most people out there try to forget about the forms of Mario Party 10 these days now, just because we are finally onto the actual classic roots again in terms of the Mario Party gameplay formula, since, you know, Super Mario Party, despite the fact that it does have a lot of issues, although with Mario Party Superstars and nowadays with Super Mario Party Jamboree, that it fixes a lot of issues than the likes of the original Super Mario Party, so but yeah, that's also really going for it. So, and there's also with the forms the 10th anniversary as well of the likes of Shaun the Sheep the movie, alongside with the forms of Inside Out. I can't even believe by saying this is about the fact that once we get to sometime in June this year, that will mark the 10th anniversary of the most uniquest Pixar films ever made, that's of course Inside Out. Although the concept is nothing new, well, execution wise it does that amazingly well in terms of how that film results goes back in 2015, and same applies with the forms of other stuff here and there as well, despite the fact that several games are mixed back, and not that great either. Like, Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is gonna be on unhappy 10th anniversary coming up until November, because let's face it though, a lot of people really don't care about the forms of Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival now, just because, you know, New Horizons is already a thing, of course, and relatively speaking though actually, that Animal Crossing New Horizons is gonna be celebrating the 5th anniversary at some point until on March 20th to be more specifically, and it's also worth noting for too that we might able to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie as well. So yeah, that's going to be pretty exciting stuff, especially, not to mention though, is about the fact that we might also celebrate the 5th anniversary of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, the compilation game, as well as the forms of Paper Mario the Origami King, in addition to Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and you get the idea for this point. So, anyway, so now we've meet up with Tails right here, and relatively speaking, we can able to compete against with Tails in Ski Jumping Launch Hill. And fundamentally speaking, just like the forms of how it does it on the Wii version, we only have to do this for about 2 times. So, yeah, there's the first try right here for Tails, and eventually we'll get on to the second try after we're done with the first try. So, which also does the same thing, actually, when it comes to Wii Fit as well. So just to ensure for the fact that, well, I suppose the only thing is something's worth noting for is that on the Wii version of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, that you can able to play the game with just the Wiimote on its own, or with the nunchuck and the Wiimote combo, if you try to compete in some events like ice hockey, as well as the forms of other events, which I suppose I should probably talk more about that later. In addition to that though, the Wii version of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games does offer you to able to have the Wii Balance Board support, which as a result, you can only use that controller for some events, but not all of them, mind you, because there might be a couple of times you got able to do a lot of emphasis on balancing as well as movement at the same time. So yeah, you get the idea of what I was expecting to mention about that, despite the fact that it's been ages since I actually have last used the Wii Balance Board since Wii Fit Plus, and hopefully I'll try to use that at some point, in regards to the forms of trying to get some more unlockables for the sake of not only with Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, but alongside with the forms of Super Monkey Ball Step and Roll as well, because I did manage able to find the actual specific list objectives this time on several websites for Super Monkey Ball Step and Roll, so hopefully I might as well get back into that game at some point. So, and relatively speaking though actually, it's about the fact that, well, since we're still on 2025 of course, that will mark the 15th anniversary of the game's release of Super Monkey Ball Step and Roll, despite the fact that I found that game to be alright, but it's not my favorite game in terms of the Super Monkey Ball series, I must admit. So anyway, now let's go in and do the second try of ski jumping, and I still didn't do my starting dash correctly. Maybe it's probably because of the input delay. Well, usually, again, it's been a very long time since I actually have last experienced this version of the game for sure. And this also means about the fact that several of the events on the DS version goes by a lot quicker this time, if only because of the lack of loading times, which I suppose that's generally a good thing, mind you, especially concerning for the fact that that way we should able to complete several missions in the quickest way imaginable. So, although, as you can tell, I somehow got 1 heart increase, so that's okay, because hopefully though we should be able to make our way to approximately a maximum of 99 hearts if possible, if we manage able to do some very good results enduring at some point in a later islands, or in some cases though just any other events in general. So yeah, I guess that's nothing else to add. So I suppose no matter what though, we can now able to recruit with Tails, so that way we now on to 4 playable characters so far in terms of adventure tours. So yeah, that's actually pretty swell, especially concerning for the fact that, well, obviously though we are pretty much almost nearly at the end in terms of Frostown, but there's actually more to it than that, which as a result we'll talk more about that in a later weekends to come. well, I would expect about the fact that I do believe it could be possible that we can able to actually finish this particular Let's Play, probably at some point while spring is almost approaching or something. Well, time will tell though, especially concerning for the fact it's already depending on the forms of how long certain missions will take, so, but we shall see. So anyway, another thing else is worth noting for, in regards to the films of the 10th anniversary when it comes to certain films coming up, ranging from, let's just say, oh god, that reminds me, Pixels, oh god, I've heard a lot of horror stories with that particular film, mind you. I mean, it's not that very great, I must admit, but even then though, that particular topic can wait in another time. So anyways, let's see what this mission involves. Oh gee, it's gonna take place in cross country, and something tells me about the fact that we need to complete this mission without having ourselves the actual sprinting marks, you know, with the actual glowing green panels, as far as we did somehow already saw from the likes of the previous missions ago. Well, we have to claim first or second, so that way we need to able to, well, try to do this without any of those glowing panels, so you can able to actually get full sprint. So anyways, let's get to it. So anyways though, there's also another thing else that's worth noting for, as a matter of fact though actually, is about the fact I do somehow managed able to found out something about the fact that when it comes to other things I would like to explain about, that it may look like about the fact that there's technically not one, but two SpongeBob movies is going to be on its way. One on Netflix, and as well as the major theatrical release. So, yeah, because as far as I'm aware, that someone did say in the comments down below, Journey films have been around, I would classify for saying since about a couple of days ago perhaps, but generally speaking that was about the fact that he did somehow say that there's going to be two SpongeBob movies that are entirely brand new for 2025 release schedule. So those two are Plankton the movie, well, despite the fact that that film hasn't got an official release date yet, but it's going to be on Netflix, so oh boy. Let's just hope about the fact that that film won't be a total disaster, unlike the films of how it does on the previous attempt with the films of Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie, which I hope not, especially concerning for the fact that how much of a negative reaction to that particular previous film has been released since last year. Well, I could possibly understand for able to try to celebrate the 25th anniversary of SpongeBob in mind, but at least you did try it. So anyways, and there's also the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants, or if I like to call it the SpongeBob movie 4, because obviously though that's going to be the 4th theatrical release, although I don't know if Sponge on a Run was counted for, especially concerning for the fact that obviously back in 5 years ago, that, oh my goodness, I actually realized about something that Silver told me this, that back in 5 years ago, during the worst year we've ever experienced, which appears to be 2020, that one marks the 5th anniversary of this whole particular disaster across all the entire planet, or in some cases the entire Earth, as a matter of fact. So, but let's face it though, let's not talk about this right now, and let's just hope about the fact that we refused able to catch that stupid sea virus again, because that honestly really ticks us all. So, but anyway, so now we've actually come across into that particular ice wall right here, and as a result we can able to actually use 4 of those crystals to deliver to Frosty, so that way we can now able to get rid of the ice wall. So actually speaking though, we're now on to the last stretch, for now anyway, in terms of Frostown. So as soon as we're able to continue going forward, wait a second, is that Eggman Nigga from Sonic Rush? Wow, I suppose the only thing that matters the most though is about the fact that we have to compete against with him, and I would classify for saying it's going to take place in during ski jumping of any sorts, or technically 2 events in 1 event. So I suppose we'll able to find out more about it after we go through the whole bunch of text boxes here and there. And relatively speaking, I was about the fact that yes, just like the forms of how it does on the console version of the game, you will come across into rival matches and stuff like that, such as the first one we might able to come across into, not counting Bowser Jr. by the way, although it is still technically the second boss you may able to expect to come across into. That's what appears to be none other than Eggman Nega. And obviously though, Eggman Nega was first appeared in Sonic Rush, and it's even strange about the fact that he somehow appeared also from the likes of Sonic Rivals, alongside with Sonic Rivals 2, as well as the forms of the ending of Sonic Rush Adventure. Spoiler alert for those who have not played the game yet. Well, I'm sure you've already seen that particular Let's Play before, back in last year, during the forms of it last summer, thanks to Ray the Flying Squirrel, as far as what I've noticed about this anyway. So, yeah, it seems to be more specifically though is about the fact that we are doing Nordic combined. So yes, it's going to be 2 events in one, such as we have to go through ski jumping, launch hill, and cross country all in one. So yeah, I do really like that particular feature, honestly, especially concerning for the fact that what's even strange about this is that every nowadays, that when it comes to the forms of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games kind of game series, well, in terms of the forms of handheld installments, usually for instance with DS or 3DS for that matter, it seems it's kind of sad though about the fact that Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, at least in terms of Winter Games department, only receives it onto the actual Nintendo DS, and as far as the 3DS era is concerned, we didn't get any of those Winter Olympics on the 3DS, which I honestly have no idea why, but relatively speaking, I was about the fact that this is the only handheld version of the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games during that time, because as far as I'm aware, the Sochi 2014 Winter Olympics was only exclusive onto the Wii U, and relatively speaking, because of the forms of usage of the Wii U gamepad, and as far as I'm usually concerned, that for the 3DS version never happened on Sochi 2014, probably because it can't handle the forms of HD graphics or something, although I may be wrong, but either way, there we go, now we get ourselves a nice little boost, and oh, that's really top notch for the timing and everything, and trying to keep our balance going, and sure enough, we were able to actually instantly manage to beat Eggman Nega, at least we thought so anyway, because according to the forms of the actual mission description though, we have to beat him exactly on the second half in terms of Nordic combined, which as a result is going to take place in cross country. So although as far as I'm aware, unlike the Wii version, you can able to compete against with Eggman Nega, that you can only beat him from the likes of in Ski Cross on the forms of not only singles festival mode, but as well as team festival mode as well. So you probably get the idea what I was expecting to mention about that. So yeah, it seems to be more specifically though, Eggman Nega is doing pretty badly right now in terms of ski jumping. So yeah, you deserve to be a major loss. Well, at least for now anyway, because like I said before, we have to deal with the forms of the second half after we're done with ski jumping, so now I do apologize if my voice sounds a little bit off today, but this is mainly because as far as I'm aware, I could not sleep well last night, so because of that though, nothing to do with the wind per se, but it's more specifically though is about the fact that my let's just say, for instance though, Wario just somehow snores very loudly, and I was like, can you keep it down over here? Well, I have no idea why, I just have nothing else to really add about that, so alright, so we somehow claimed first place from now on, so relatively speaking that pretty much does it for the first half of this particular event, and then as soon as you're able to go on to the next half, it actually tells you the position that you're on to right now. So anyway, so now we're on to the second half, which obviously takes place in cross country. So, and as far as I'm aware with cross country though, it's all button controls, so at least we don't have to worry about the forms of touchscreen or anything else like that anytime soon. Oh, and by the way, in between with the forms of ski jumping, alongside with the forms of cross country as well, every once in a while though, we have to come across into this particular skill roulette thing. Like for instance though, as you can see, we actually did manage to achieve a sprinting level, which appears to be a level 1 variation, which obviously we do have one sprint available, and then there's also with the forms of stamina meter level 1, which that means it actually increased your heart slightly, so that way you can able to actually get some recovery after dealing with ski jumping and everything. And there's also nothing, where you get nothing at all, and relatively speaking, there's one of those missions coming up that does require you to able to actually try to deal with that stuff, but that will be for later. So yeah, I got nothing else to talk about aside from the fact that, well, it seems pretty crazy to believe about the fact that when it comes to the insane amount of anniversaries about to be coming up. Oh, in addition to that though, is about the fact that, from what I've heard anyway, until towards the end of 2025, relatively speaking though, we're also about to able to try to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the existence of Wallace and Gromit at Close Shave, in some cases the third Wallace and Gromit short, which as a result though, it also features Shaun the Sheep himself, so yeah, that's something to be looking forward to while looking back on the actual retrospective of any other stuff like this. So, but anyways, let's go ahead and finish this race off by going through the last few bunch of hills, and oh dang it, I totally forgot that I have to force to take that upper slanted hill right there. But regardless, we somehow succeed, no problem. So, granted though, about the fact that the game itself starts to get a little bit easier, but as soon as you get into the later parts of the game, it will get pretty challenging and difficult at the same time when it comes to mission objectives you have to follow, and in addition to AI can sometimes manage to throw you off at points. So, anyway, so we got ourselves the supersonic ski downhill and ski shooting, which I believe those events are all basically dream events, basically. So, yeah, I believe, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, speaking of dream events in mind, I believe the next island we're about to be hop into was actually going to take place in a different kind of island, which, as a result, though, we'll talk more about that in a moment, because it may look like Eggman Neko is about to get away, so this means about the fact that I think something tells me that he will give us our next Snow Spirit now, and we'll meet up with Eggman Neko again, so at least in a later portion of the game anyway. But at least unlike the forms of how it does on the Wii version, like I stated before, you can only compete against with Eggman Neko in Ski Cross in Day 15 when it comes to, you know, Single Festival and Dream Festival. So yeah, something's worth noting for. So, and I believe fundamentally speaking though, we might able to actually come across into some familiar rival battles ever since on the Wii version as well, but yeah, that particular explanation can wait and join at some point in the next couple of weekends and beyond, especially concerning for the fact that, well, you get the idea for this point. So, oh yeah, as soon as we're able to rescue one of those snow spirits, as you can tell, one of those snow spirits, which appears to be named Sparky, basically though, he would able to actually trigger a snowflakes, which means it's starting to snow all over in one of those islands that we're about to be hop into, which, as a result though, yeah, it may look like we can now able to actually get in there. But if you're probably wondering, how do we get there exactly? Well, as far as I'm aware, each and every single ending portion of certain locales you can able to explore, apart from the final one, which we'll save that topic for a later time. Basically though, we can able to actually hop into that familiar... You remember the forms of that particular cannons from the likes of not only with New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, to able to actually skip certain worlds and jump into the further worlds and beyond, and same applies with the forms of New Super Mario Bros. Wii as well, at least assuming if you do manage to find several of those secret exits, mind you, we can able to actually hop into this particular black hole over there, which I believe that actually triggers a cannon, so that way it can actually lead us to the next world we're going to be able to explore into. So, and by the way, every time we defeat the rivals and all that stuff, basically the game allows you to save, and also we can now play several missions outside of the forms of adventure tours, so at the very least you can able to replay several missions on your spare own time in one of those menu navigations or something like that. So, there's another news brief right there, so nothing right to hum about, so... And I believe there's going to be some hearts in one of those barrels, at least there's going to be one of them, yep. Right, I was expecting for able to predict that particular item is going to be in here, so And I think, fundamentally speaking, we did indeed manage able to take control of Sonic for a long period of time for this part. So we'll switch over to Mario for a brief second, and just to ensure that we were able to actually play as Mario for about quite a few times, although it can be mandatory for certain parts. Like, for instance, I see some green pipes there. In addition to that, though, there's going to be some more mission objectives that we could have able to try to scoutering around, and you probably get the idea what I was expecting to mention about that. So, but yeah, hopefully though by that time until next week or so, then I should probably be able to discuss more details on other aspects in the future. But relatively speaking, that's as far as we can able to discuss upon right now, actually. So either way though, and this is where we ended up in the first of one of the 3 dream islands we can able to explore, such as Sparkleton. And yeah, this place is filled to the brim with a lot of sparkle artifacts, and on top of all that stuff though, I really do like the music in this particular world so far, especially concerning for the fact that, and as far as I'm aware, that this place, alongside with the forms of the other 2 islands coming up, I believe we have to force to play these dream events, so that'll be exciting. Although don't get your hopes up though, because unlike the console version of the game, that it does manage to take place in Mario and Sonic universe kind of environments. Like for example, with I would classify for saying Dream Alpine, for example, it does manage to take place in Seaside Hill from Sonic Heroes. And as far as I'm aware, with Dream Ski Jumping does manage to take place in Good Egg Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy. And I could probably go on to the actual other lists as far as I'm aware, but that'll be a topic for the sake of the forms of next Saturday. Because with all that being said, folks, despite the fact that, well, relatively speaking, this video's gone long enough as it is so far, so I suppose we should probably end things off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games for the Nintendo DS. Is that we're about to be exploring into the next locale, and that's what appears to be Sparkleton, the first of the 3 dream islands we can able to explore into. So yeah, that'll be fun. So I'll see you guys until next Saturday. Later, fellas.